Good morning, Melkus. It's a snow day. No tests are coming up, and your homework is done, and it's 1999. Think you're gonna play career mode in Gran Turismo on this nice, relaxing snow day? Guess what? You gotta take 90 license tests. Here's a Mitsubishi FTO. Cool, huh? High-revving, small displacement V6 coupe? Wanna ring it out on a tight course? Guess what? You get to accelerate and stop within that square down there, within a preposterous time limit. Now do it again. Now do it backwards. Now do it while turning. Now go between cones and stop in the square within the allotted time limit. Isn't this the tits? You could be in 6-period lunch right now, sticking a breadstick out of your fly. But here you are, staring at the rear of a polygony FTO, accelerating and stopping within a square within the time limit. We're Gran Turismo. We're gonna make an entire generation of Americans hate FTOs. A car that never existed in America to begin with. I felt it too, when I walked up and looked at this car in real life. Nice. We're gonna do an FTO. Why am I in a pissy mood? Oh, that's right. This is the car that kept me from the main part of the game. If a video game was gonna throw a car under the bus, an FTO is a decent sacrifice. Because here in the United States, the Turbo 4 DSM cars, Eclipses, and Talons, they were faster. They made more power and sung turbo noises all day. And they were available in all-wheel drive. And if we, Americans, wanted a fancy, complex transverse V6, the 3000 GT was available. Now, in 2022, younger generations who never experienced PS1 trauma love the FTO. Fina says boys want to race her, throwing revs her way. Because, yo, it's a JDM car! It must be fast! Japan is better than the USA! FTO style hazardous cause I wrecked this! Slow down, Ricky. The FTO is about as fast as a Gen 1 Dodge Neon with the twin cam engine. The interior even smells the same. Smells like warm bubble gum that still has some flavor left. The 6A12 2-liter V6 makes 170 to 177 horsepower, and the numbers are iffy. Peak power comes in at 7,000 RPM, and you get 141 foot-pounds of torque at 4,000 RPM. Now compare that to the 2-liter 150 horsepower ECC engine in the Neon that had 139 pound-feet of torque at 4,800 RPM. So even though the Neon's power numbers are smaller, the torque and horsepower figures are closer together, making the power feel more fun. The FTO loses revs really fast, and the power peaks between torque and horsepower are 3,000 RPM apart. So in the Neon, you can be sloppy with your shifting and still keep up with an FTO. And the FTO's steering wheel doesn't line up with your legs. And the rear seats are Mustang-style joke. And the interior feels dark even on a sunny day. A small car like this found a way to have tractor-trailer-sized blind spots. And curiously, the 2-liter V6 gets quieter the higher it revs. And that's still with an axle-back exhaust. Nobody values their time more than a child. You know, from every tug on the cuff of your jacket sleeve as you catch up with an old friend in a Lowe's parking lot. A pleasantly unexpected encounter becomes the death of their Saturday as they beg and plead to go. They have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to be. But life is out there, and it's going on without them.
Dad, can we go? Let's go!
Go where? You have no homework. You have no job. Where do you need to be?
Ah!
The Mitsubishi FTO is that child. A car of anxious energy. It wants to go fast even though it's not, with its microscopic 2-liter V6 to skirt the Japanese tax penalties on engines over 2 liters.
Yeah, that seems very easy to bounce it off redline because there's no real crack or crackle to the exhaust.
Yeah.
It gets quieter as it gets higher up in the rev range.
Strange.
Yeah.
It wasn't made for American roads. It's basically Mitsubishi covering the Miata. And like Chris Cornell doing Billie Jean, it's unique, but way more depressing. Because there's no reason for this car to exist beyond the vague notion of youth appeal or the ta-da! We made a 2-liter V6. Isn't that fantastic? A company report described this as the little brother of the GTO, and that it's a touring model, overflowing with freshness, youthfulness, and originality. But it's more like somebody put wheels on a giant pair of Airwalks. A desperate appeal to a younger demographic that worked for a time, but had no real longevity to it. I mean, yeah, we rocked Airwalks in 1995. There's no way you couldn't. They were as inescapable as Gangsta's Paradise. But ubiquity and quality aren't the same thing, and neither is quality and novelty. The FTO is about as novel as they come, but it's the Skyline chili of gray market imports. Skyline chili. It's high cuisine for neighbors who host summer cookouts without opening their pool. The FTO was a popular gray market import in the UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, and other Eastern territories. So much so that Mitsubishi went back on their plan to make this a JDM exclusive car and offered limited runs in those countries through their dealerships. But in Japan, these seemed like these were just disposable sports cars. A Costco sampler of the GTO, meant to get your foot in the door before you move up. But time has lengthened the novelty and made this car appealing to an entirely new set of auto enthusiasts who value JDM history as much or more than the people who lived it. It was a fine car in 1995, but I'm not even sure it's a car you'd remember in 1995 if you lived in Japan. If the FTO existed in the United States, this would have been the car you double park while your girlfriend hops out to drop the copy of Waterworld into the late return box at the video store. But the car isn't what you would have remembered about those nights. It's finger blasting her in the front seat while teenagers on bikes pass by and shout, "Gay!" So, who is the FTO for? I could imagine this being an appealing car to have if you already have it. But are you going to go out of your way to want this above any number of better JDM cars you could have for cheaper? R2. Mechanically, the Mitsubishi FTO puts the age in average, in the same way Skyline Chili puts the mid in Midwestern cuisine. For some, the biggest positive is going to be the aesthetic, and just how weird the FTO is, particularly when you're importing it into the United States. Fina replaced the steering wheel and got a new head unit, as you do. This also has the front bumper swap from a 98 to 01. So this is a post-facelift despite being a pre-facelift model. And while the axle back exhaust makes the FTO seem kind of louder than it actually is, it's not without its merits from the words, because what does FTO stand for? It stands for Fresh Touring Origination. So it gets fuel economy of about 450 kilometers per tank, so let's call that 22 city, 30 highway. It's front-wheel drive, and Fina purchased this at 112,000 miles. It's currently sitting at 134,500 miles. Just buzzing away with its throwback appearance and startup sound that features a Japanese woman asking politely for your toll card. FTO, no, hang on, Skyline Chili. With every lunch from 2 to 5 p.m., get 30% off cremation from down-to-earth funeral home and burial services. Skyline Chili. If gray was a flavor. Skyline Chili. It's like eating an overcast sky. Never before have I eaten such a complete bowl of matter than I have when I ate at Skyline Chili. So do you need an Mitsubishi FTO? Well, no, I'm not sure anybody really does, but it's a difficult car to condemn outright, even if there's no obvious reason for it to even exist. I mean, it sort of has the same faults as the GR8, as the modern Toyota GR86. It's like, it's a fantastic sports coupe, if only it was faster. But the GR86 doesn't have any provenance. It does not have history. We'll have to talk about this later. But the FTO does. It harkens back to the Galant FTO from the early 70s, and it feels like an attempt to maintain continuity with tradition by updating it for modern audiences. in a way that ropes in a younger crowd. Of course, GM tried this with the GTO, and look what happened. Get young people to appreciate a good value in the same way children appreciate their time. But unlike kids who just want to get home as fast as possible so they can sit in front of a tablet with a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, the people whom the FTO was created could probably afford to wait for something better to come along. So, what's the FTO for? What do you do with one of these things? You listen to it. You touch it, you run your hands over the controls, and you don't race anybody. You drive it 50% and enjoy that a car like this was made. And you don't think too deeply about it.
Yep, we're good. And one last highway pull.
Yeah, do it.
That jerked a little bit going into second. But then the torque, have to wait for a little bit. Into third. And it's okay. That's it.
There are two albums that come to mind. Number one, Lou Reed's Transformer. With the Transformer album, you are made to appreciate what it's like to be on heroin, to live like a lowlife, to experience wild excesses and play with gender in a way you don't think your sensibilities would ever let you to, but you can listen to Lou Reed's Transformer and get an idea of what it's like to live in chaos without a support structure. And when you don't have a foundation, all you have left is being cool. When you don't have power, all you have left is being cool. When you can't win in life, all you have left is being cool. When you're as slow or maybe just faster than a Dodge Neon, all the FTO really can do is look cool. Listen to the buzziness of this engine and marvel that they even did it. You can feel that this maybe this is what it's like to have a Ferrari, a very revvy multi-cylinder engine, a V6 up front, trying to make itself more attractive than it is. Stand on the corner in front of the gig and make like you're famous. And if you look sharp enough and if you practice aloofness, you can look like you're somebody. The FTO looks like it's fast as hell, and people will believe it. Just don't try to prove it. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have You Can't Stop the Bum's Rush by Len. What is that album? It's one song. It's Steal My Sunshine, and the rest of that album is filler crap. They were an anomaly band that was picked up and overproduced to hell. But if you have to be a one-hit wonder, be Len. Find a song that hits so perfectly in your generation that it will never die. Len will never die, and that song will never go away. And the feeling, gosh, that song perfectly created Summer Vacation, or that wonderful summer between high school and college. You were free in a way you've never known before. Don't think too much about the song itself. Just enjoy the moment. Enjoy slapping this RPM needle off red line and coming back down again. Enjoy holding it in gears and listening to that little V6 just sing away and away, making a bunch of noise and ever so slight vibration and producing no forward motion at all. But it hits perfectly. It was so good that I drove this thing twice because it started to rain, so we just drove it again. The seating position isn't fantastic, and it smells like an old Doge in here, but I'm cool. I'm rolling by people, and they know that I know that they know that I'm having a blast. So in the end, Mitsubishi created Summer Vacation, the car. Have a good summer.